Hi guys, welcome back to part 2, I guess, of these videos that we're doing at the moment of our experience moving, living in France, the planning side of it, the processes and the application side of, you know, the bureaucratic system here in France. And we're just going to be open and honest with you about our experience. And as we said in the last video, we're going to start with Mark with his application for a visa, basically.
Yes.
And how it all began, what you had to do first of all, how long it took, were there delays, were there things that were difficult, was it expensive, what was it like?
Well, let's talk about visas then, shall we, first of all, because there's many types of visas you can go with, depending on your situation. I was lucky in the fact that we're married and you have French nationality, so I was coming in as a spouse of a French national. So from what I'm just going to describe at the moment is based on what I went through for that. So if you're not married to a French national, or you don't have any link to that side of it, it'll be a very different visa and a very different process. But for myself, the first thing I had to do was apply online with getting a visa for moving to France. You can go on there and you can get a 90-day visa very simply, but I was looking to get a long stay working visa because I was moving here and I was working here. As part of that also, I was lucky that the company I work for gave me a French contract. So I had a contract of a job already. So it was very, very lucky as well. So yeah, I had to fill in a few forms online, and I had to provide numerous pieces of documentation. So I had to prove that we were married, so I had to give them a marriage certificate. I had to give them a copy of my English passport, and I also had to give them a copy of my birth certificate, which at that time was okay because it was applying in the UK, which is a bit different to when you're applying in France, and we'll come on to that. So I had a copy of my birth certificate from a few years ago, back when I was born, and included that as well as part of my application process.
It was all crumpled up and it was all like, it was all creased and folded.
It's not that bad. It wasn't that bad.
Oh, it was.
It's just a bit older than some. So yeah, we had that, had all the documentation, and then I had to get some photos, standard things that you have to do. So filled that in online and then had to go for an appointment at I'd like to call it the French embassy, but it wasn't the French embassy. It's where you go for the French immigration services in France, and it was in the UK. And it was there's two locations. One's in London.
One's the consulate.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the consulate actually. It was one is in the south of London, and one is in, I think it's Manchester. Is the other one.
Immigration, like prefecture.
Yeah, where it's like an immigration services, and it was in South London. It was big building, and there was a lot of people going there for these things. And this is all like post-Brexit situation. Never had to do that before because being part of the EU, just walk in, walk out. So had to go up there for a meeting with them with all my documentation, and as with all things French, it's a lot of documentation. You have to take, good copies of everything. Went in there, had a conversation with them about, why am I doing this? What are the benefits and all the rest of it? And they were really, really, really nice. And gave them all my passports, left everything there. Had to have scans, photographs taken of me there as well.
Take fingerprints.
Fingerprints, everything else. And then about 2 weeks later, 2 or 3 weeks later, I got my passport through. So that, and it was all stamped. Yeah, all in all, I think it probably took, for me, about 8 weeks. I'd said about 2 months in total.
Yeah.
So it was reasonably quick. It wasn't too bad.
Some people, say that it takes a lot longer sometimes. For certain people, it can take a very long time, that bit, to get their passports.
I mean, I think it depends on the type of visa you're getting. I was lucky, like I said, because being married to yourself and having work here as well, you know, I can provide them a contract of where, you know, of me where I'm going to be working. I can provide them our marriage certificate and everything else, and the fact that our kids are born, you know, one of our children's born here. All these things add on to it and give you like ticks in boxes all the way down that list. So there was no question, no concerns, no problems. And then I got my visa, and then about a week later we moved to France, didn't we?
Yes.
Which was,
we were getting all the documentation, all our visas and our passport side for me and the children. So our children are also French. They have French nationality through me on my mother's side. So, you know, that was good, but I had to go and get their passports done. So all our documents were all up to date. Also, all the documentation that you provide for your visa or for anything really has to be at least 1 to 3 months old.
Only in France, not when I was applying in the UK. This is what I was going to get on to.
No, because it's like French territory in there.
No, I didn't need to.
Well,
and that's what I want to get onto, because as part of when we got here, when I was applying in the UK, I could provide them my birth certificate that I had at the time. When we got married, we had to give them a birth certificate which was within 6 months, being a non-French born person. So non-EU, yeah. Well, no, at the time it was because I was non-French, because UK was in the EU when we got married. Interestingly enough. Yes, But you had to, you yourself had to give it within 3 months. I had to give it within 6 months. And that's a ongoing trend you'll see during this video, about the fact everything has to be within a certain time frame.
Well, normally in France, all documents have to be no more than 3 months old. That's the general rule. In France.
Exactly. And it can be quite complicated in that sense. So once we got to France, we moved to France. I had to then go online and pay a fee, declare that I'm now in France, and I think it was a €200 I had to pay to your French tax. Although working here, I also then pay French tax, but it's a different tax. But there's always different taxes, and then that authorised my visa for a year, because I initially got a year visa, but you have to authorise it within 3 months. I don't quite know the right wording for it, but that. For argument's sake, that's what I had to do. And then a year later, I had to get my visa extended and get my actual titre de séjour, my carte de séjour.
Oh yeah, the carte de séjour.
And then when I had to do that is when I had to get another copy of my birth certificate, which was where things became more complicated, because, as I mentioned in the last video, being born in Hong Kong, I can't just get hold of the local consulate, phone them up and say, can you send over a copy of my birth certificate or all of that. I had to actually, for myself, I knew some people there, but I actually got in touch with a company of lawyers who actually got me a copy of my birth certificate. And it has to be a registered copy and signed by the births, deaths and whoever it is over there, in whichever country you're from. And it would be the same if you're applying, if you were British, you would have to get a copy of your birth certificate from the UK for your birth in your birth death register, birth and marriages register, and it has to be an authorised signatured copy, so that it's and within 6 months, not within 3 months, within 6 months if you're born outside of France. So then we had to go there, and again all the documentation again to get my my carte de séjour. So it was copy of marriage certificate, contract of work, proof of where we're living, so a bill to show that you've been here over 6 months or a year, I think it was, as well as birth certificate and all the forms you have to fill in.
Did you need proof, like any birth certificates of the children or anything like that?
No, because of the visa I was getting was being a spouse of herself. So because of that, I had to have a copy of your passport.
Yeah.
Actually, I think.
Did you need the
what it was.
livre de famille?
No.
No.
No, didn't need that, but I am on that, which is really nice.
Yeah, we do have a livre de famille,
yeah.
so yeah, because that has been useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I didn't need that, which was good. But one thing I will say, it was a bit of a nightmare getting a meeting at the prefecture for the region, because France is moving to everything being online, which is great, and the UK does everything online. A lot of countries do. But France just dipping their toe into the water means that the processes aren't great. And I could, for the life of me, could not get a meeting. So every time I went on there, it was either not available or there was no meeting times, and you just can't book it. And you have to have it, you can only start applying for that within 3 months of your visa ending.
Yes.
So I think it got to within about a month of my visa ending. Literally within a month of my visa ending. And I couldn't have
I
a
was
meeting.
trying to call them.
Yep.
And it just wasn't going anywhere. There was literally just someone picked up the phone and said, "Oh, you need to call back. I'm not the right person." But we couldn't speak.
No.
There was no help, and it just went on like that.
did.
And we emailed. There was no replies.
No. And they just said, "Do it online," and you
couldn't do it
couldn't do it
online.
online. The system did not work.
No,
so
the system was just useless.
It was useless. So what I ended up doing was I got all my documentation together and had everything to hand. So everything that I needed to have for my application, I had in a folder. And I just went to the prefecture. I just went there, and it was the immigration.
That was such a good idea, just to go.
And I'll be honest, they were super helpful, and they understood completely. And I got there and just said, "Look, I need some help. I've been trying to book a meeting. My visa runs out at the end of this month. Help me." I work in France. I pay French tax. My family's here. What can I do? And really helpful actually. They booked a meeting for me the following week, and I went in, gave them my documentation, gave everything. They said come back a week later. I think myself and you, we all went down there together, and done. Had everything sorted.
Yeah.
Got it all resolved. And
it was very good actually.
Yeah, and then I think it was about.
It was very quick actually once we were there.
It was all stamped.
They just
and
got
done.
everything together, stamped it, made you sign.
Yeah.
Made me sign something, I can't remember.
Yeah. Just to prove who you were,
Yeah.
and then I think it was I don't know if I got my card on the same day or a bit later on, but yeah, then my card appeared.
I think they had it ready for you.
I think they did. Yeah, my card sure was there. And then obviously I got my card for towel because of all of that. I was on the tax system, I had a tax number, all the rest of it.
It
So
opened the doors.
everything came along.
The key. It's the key is to opening up all of the other doors.
It was absolutely, and another thing I had to pay as well was it was €225. It's like another stamp that you had to have. Prior to obviously going to get my carte de séjour, I did have to go and have a medical with a company called OFI, which is the Office of French Immigration and something or other. It's called OFI, OFII. So I had to go and have a medical for that. I had to then go and have a meeting with them. I had to fill in a questionnaire, and they test your level of French and have a meeting with you. And then they they put you on courses and they suggest things. I then had to do, as part of getting my carte de séjour, this is all prior to that meeting that I had. I had to then, was it prior to the meeting or was it after the meeting? I can't remember if it was before or after. But either way, I then had to do a 4-day course. So I had to go up to the local where the prefecture was.
It's like an education civique sort of course.
It was exactly
That's
what it was.
Just teaching you about the French values and society, politics, and a little bit of everything, isn't it?
It was. And it was very much about, this is how you apply for jobs in France. This is how you...
Yeah, the bureau.
Yeah, all the bits that you how to get your driving license, how to
go to the Pôle emploi.
Yeah, how to sign on, how to find a job, how to sign on, and these sort of things. And it was quite. I mean, the people who were running it have done it most of me, so I was there because a lot of the things that they were saying were really not, not relevant to myself. But it's...
You had to go though, didn't you? You had to do it.
Yeah. It's all part of what you have to do as part of the process. And it's absolutely fine. I just had to go and spend a day 4 days actually, over the course of 4 weeks. But it meant I got my carte séjour, and it meant that was actually...
And then it was done.
But that was a 2-year renewal at that moment. I've got to renew it again this year, annoyingly. And hopefully that'll be my longer term residential one, which I think is for 10 years. But
we will get that done. Yeah.
We will see. But
eventually you might be able to apply for your French nationality.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, that was interesting. One thing to mention as well is all documentation, if like birth certificates and so forth, they have to be legally translated. I don't know whether it was the fact that mine was from Hong Kong or whether it was in English and it was just being rushed through because of the lateness of not being able to get a meeting. But they didn't actually want to
pick up on it.
They didn't ask for a copy of it translated.
They didn't need it.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, it wasn't actually the copy that was signed. It was just an emailed copy that I had, which I printed out, and they were fine with it.
I think maybe it's because it's from Hong Kong, and it's already they know that must have been very complicated just to get hold of that.
It's not an easy task to be blunt.
So I think maybe they're just like.
Yeah,
I think they just helped you out a bit.
Yeah, I think
maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe.
Maybe it was just enough. It was enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was enough.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly, and the fact that it's I'm paying tax and we're married and all the rest of it, and we've gone through the process already before that of applying, getting the visa and everything. So I think.
But what I would say is just be ready to have to translate any documentations that are in English into French, and it has to be done through a legal translator who's registered. So yeah, I've had to do it before. So,
absolutely.
It's not difficult. There you can go and find a list and you just contact them, and it's about €60 or something to get something translated.
Yeah, I mean that's very important. I mean we had to do it for when we got married, didn't we? That's
Yeah, we did.
So it's an important thing to remember, and that yes, you may have a copy of your birth certificate which is less than 6 months old, but you need to make sure that actually it is also translated as well, and you're better off having it done and being prepared than turning up and then having that stress and that worry of I need to get it done now. I mean, I might try my luck again this time and not do it and see what happens. But yeah, we'll see this year.
So you had to go and pick up your carte de séjour, did you? Did you have to go in person and go and sign for it? What did you have to go and sign for?
I did because they gave it to me. That I actually had to go and get it, and they gave it to me. My carte vitale, that came through the post. My carte séjour.
Where did you have to go? At the prefecture?
Prefecture, the same place. Yeah. You go there with all my documentation, and they give it to you there, and they give it to you there and then.
Yeah.
So and they were really helpful. I had no issue with them at all. They were really, really nice, and it's just the French way. There's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of paperwork, and you need to be prepared.
When we were in the UK and you were applying for your visa, they kept hold of your passport because you're not allowed to go anywhere. You're not allowed to leave the country in between that time.
Yeah.
So they take your passport and they keep it whilst they're processing your visa.
Yeah.
And then, did they send it back to you in the post, or did you have to go and get it?
Yeah, that was a good point. I mean, they actually put the visa into your passport, which is why they keep your passport as well. So they actually have to stamp it in there.
Yeah.
But if you've got more than one passport, you do have to leave all your passports, like you mentioned.
You have to. You're not allowed to leave the country.
If you've got more than one passport.
So just be aware that whilst you're doing your visa, you can't travel.
No.
You stay in the country until your visa is ready.
Yeah. And it was very quick. It was very quick. For me, it literally took from going there, having that meeting to getting my passport back was about 2 weeks, if that.
2 weeks?
If that.
Because some people say it takes them, honestly, some people say it takes a very, very long, up to even a year sometimes. depending maybe on where you are.
I think the process of getting to that point of having that meeting, because you've got to fill in a lot of forms and you've got to provide a lot of documentation, and they won't take your passport away from you until the person on that desk is happy that they've got everything they need and they can give you the visa. So I think it may be the case that the people, they'll go there and they'll not have all the documentation they need. So they'll be sent away to go find more documentation. They've got to book another meeting, another appointment, and that's what takes the time. Once they tell you, yep, everything's good, they take your passport, they stamp it. But you mentioned, you asked about, did I go and get it or did I have it posted?
Because there's an option, isn't there, to have it posted back to you?
There is. You can either go and get your passport back with it all in there, or you get it posted. And the actual person who I was having my meeting with at the centre recommended that I come and get it, because they were having issues at the time with the courier service they were using. I don't know who they were using, so I'm not going to comment on any names and all the rest of it. But for me, it's your passport, it's your visa. I had no issue. I mean, my office was in London, so it's just a case I pop in. But I had no issue with going and getting it to make sure I've got it in my hand. I don't want to chance any courier or postal service to lose my passport. It's not only a visa, it's your passport. Both, visa's hard enough to get. Passport is equally as painful if anyone's, have to renew your passport. It's awkward. It's expensive and it's awkward. And
you can do without that.
When you're doing this, it's stress you can do without. So.
But I've heard the actual postal option, it should be actually back on track since. And I've heard that it's a good option. Just be sure that they don't have any issues.
Yeah.
And I've heard that it's actually a very good service to go for. But for you, it wasn't at the time.
No,
so.
it's a great idea. I mean, for me, it was just as easy to go in there, sign my name, and pick it up. And then I had my passport in my hand. I knew that we were going to be going. I think it was about 2 weeks later we were leaving.
Yeah.
I think it might be less now. It might have been a
week.
It was less.
A
week later.
It was less,
so it was. As with all things, we cut it a little bit fine.
It's always the last minute.
Yeah, well, it's the way it is. But it was done. We got it done. But actually, I think it might have been 2 weeks, because I actually, as part of moving to France, and that will be in probably the next video. Part of the planning and moving to France, I had to actually give them a copy of my passport with my visa in it to the removal company.
Yeah.
And as part of the documentation, when you're moving to France, documentation for customs with all your stuff. If you're moving, or the removal company, then it could be a passport it's got your visa and everything in it. It was interesting. And getting visas is not simple, I would have said, in France, but it's not simple for a reason. They're not just going to give them to everyone, and that's fair. I understand that. I get it.
It never used to be like that, but the UK is no longer part of the EU, which makes everyone have to apply for a visa.
Yeah.
Unless you have an EU passport, then makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and I envy you for that. But I'll be honest, it made sense. It's fine. It wasn't that hard. Got there in the end. Got to renew it again, but I'll just go through and do the process again. It's just one of those things you have to do, unfortunately.
I think should we go through some of the advice here?
I would.
Just like some practical advice is to be organised when you go to your visit for your visa. When you're called in for your appointment, make sure you go, get a little file ready, get all your paperwork, all your original documents in there and more.
Yeah, double check them, triple check them. Yeah. If you can have more than one copy of each, take more than one copy of each as well.
Yeah.
And that includes things like marriage certificates, birth certificates, your forms that you have to fill in, any copies of contracts if you work in France, proof of living, your tax abilities, your ability to be able to pay your way. If you are if you need health cover, because maybe you're not, you're not here, you don't live in France all the time, copies of your health insurance, bank statements, all that. There's a whole list, and you can go online and you can find the list that you need, but just be sure, because you don't want to have to try and make that meeting again.
You don't want to have a dossier that's incomplete as well. So if they're missing anything for any reason, you go, oh, I gave you that. Well, you can go, look, I have it here. You can take it again. And it's no problem, because that happens.
Yeah, and they won't turn around and go, oh, don't worry about it. That's part of their bureaucracy. They worry about it. You're not getting it if it's not there.
No. And also, just take anything else that you have. So if you've been previously married or divorced or anything like that, just take those any information documents with you, or anything else that you think might be of possibly of interest, and take a pen, because we're always looking for pens. It's so true though, isn't it? For a pen.
Take a working pen, and I'll probably recommend having it in black as well, just in case they turn around and say you can't write in blue. Not saying they would, but
and it also looks good because you're going there prepared, you're going there as a grown-up, you've got your own pen, you can speak a certain level of French, so be prepared to brush up on your French so that you can exchange with them.
Absolutely.
And make it a comfortable appointment, and all will be well.
Yeah, I mean, looks, I would say, dress smart, don't turn up in your gardening clothes. If your French isn't up to the level that you think you probably need, then take someone with you, such as yourself, to accompany you, because that's fine. They don't mind that at all, and it makes their life easier actually than having to try and. And
I do actually do that as my job. I do help people who need to go to appointments or need help with filling out any documentation and a lot more actually. So I can always put the link on the description below.
And I think for me this year, I think that is going to be a godsend. It's going to make my life a lot easier.
Yeah. It's always been quite helpful for you, hasn't it?
It has. You've always helped me, actually. Honestly, you have. No, you absolutely have.
There's things you've done you haven't needed any help with,
Yeah,
but I've done little bits here and there for you.
I've not always wanted to ask for help, because I'd rather. Sometimes you have to just do things to understand it yourself. It makes sense.
But I have always thought, I have always found the French system complicated and long, and there's always been des imprévus, certain things that you weren't expecting that crop up. And it happens to all of us, everyone, even French people or French, non-French people, it happens. And it's a process. You think you're going to send it off and you'll hear back in a few weeks. And a lot of people are surprised by just how long things take. They can take, like I said, up to a year. In my last video, it took us at least a year to set everything up and for it to be finalised. And I'm French. So I've always said to myself, it's been painful for me to sort of set up my family in France. And I just think, how do other people do it who are British, who don't speak French, who don't know the system, the French system, and how the country works? It must be very, very frustrating and very difficult at times. So I have my own company that help people like you, if you are one of those people, to help you out, to just take that pressure off you and to look after that side for you, all those things for you. So because it's very difficult. It must be. But I've always had that moment of yes, I've done it. When it's over and it's done and it's all set up and it's there's a really good relief, a good feeling of relief, and
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely. And I think from my point of view, I think there'll be a lot of people out there who will be very thankful for having people like you who are able to do that for them, because, like you say, it's not easy even for the French. So if you're not French, and please don't expect everything to be done in the way that the pace that you would expect it to do. Maybe in the UK, things just don't happen that fast sometimes.
You have to be patient.
In everything.
You have to be patient and just go along with it step by step.
Yeah.
Take each step as it comes. And don't be surprised that if you think, oh, that's it, I've put it in the post, it's gone, it's done.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if you get something back, go like just saying,
Yeah.
oh, you know, now we need something else, you know, so
Follow the process.
Follow the process
Yeah.
and keep calm with it.
Yeah, and if you do have to post anything, this is another bit of useful advice, always send it registered post, signed for.
Yeah.
Because
really
you will have a copy and you know that it's been received because you know, we know how it is. It's just an important thing to remember.
Yes, absolutely. Good point.
But I don't know if that just about covers everything
That
in
covers
regards
this
to
video,
visas.
I think, for
Yeah,
now.
I think so. And obviously, if you've got any questions about the visa process, add comments below. I'm quite sure that you'll be more than happy to help. I mean, I'll add comments where I can if it helps, but I think you're in a better position to be answering those questions for the viewers.
Yeah, don't hesitate. Just come to me, and I've also got a link for my Facebook page and for everything else, all the other information that you will need, and a lot more actually. So yes, don't hesitate.
I think that's it for this one.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Excellent. Well, and I'll take the lead on this one and say thank you all very much for your time and like, subscribe, all the rest of it.
Yes, please do subscribe, and that's going to help our channel out, and we thank you very much, and have a great week wherever you are, a great weekend, and we'll see you really soon.
We will see you soon.
See you in the next video.
Bye-bye.
Bye.